Hello everybody, welcome back. It's time for another Shop My Stash. So this is my May Shop My Stash where I will pick out some items from my dressing table to work on in the month of May, and then I'll also recap on the products that I was working on in April. And don't mind me having a cup of tea whilst I film this video. So I had 10 items that I was working on in April, and I had pretty good usage for near enough all of the items, so that's really good considering that I've got also a project pan going and a pan in every eyeshadow palette going on as well. So I'll start off talking through the items, and first up is a lip gloss. This is by Kiko. This is in the shade 19, and this is a really lovely clear lip gloss in the fact that there's no glitter in it, and it's a really beautiful warm neutral brown pink. So it's a lovely neutral pink for me and my complexion, and I've been really enjoying wearing this over the top of the lip liner that was in my Shop My Stash and also the lip liner that was in my project pan. So I've got a good amount of use out of this. I wore this one 9 times, but the reason that I didn't wear it more than that is because there's also a lip gloss in my project pan, and that's kind of been my focus. However, I'm going to film my project pan in a few days time, and I'm going to actually add this one in because I want to get this one used up as well. So when I do that, I'll probably try to alternate the days that I'm wearing this one and the other one. But Kiko lip glosses are really, really beautiful. They're probably the best lip gloss out there in terms of like drugstore lip glosses because they're very, very comfortable. They don't feel sticky or tacky, and brilliant range of shades to choose from as well. I remember when I bought these, I bought 3 of them. I really kind of struggled to know which shades to go for, so there, lots and lots of choices to go for, so there should be a shade for everybody. Great price as well, and just a really beautiful lip gloss I would highly recommend. I've recently bought M&S tea bags. It's the first time I've tried M&S tea, and obviously it's a lovely cup of tea. I'm really enjoying the teas I'm making with the M&S tea bags, and I've just realised that that's an incredibly British thing to say. Wow, okay. Anyway, moving on. Next product is my Vive blusher in the shade Pesca. A really beautiful warm peach shade, lovely for sort of the spring and summer months, but if you have a warm complexion, obviously it's a great year-round shade as well. And the quality of Vive makeup, in particular their powders, are just fantastic. I love their eyeshadows, I love their blushes, their bronzers, and actually even the highlighter that I will talk about in a bit as well. Beautiful blusher, got a good amount of use out of this, wore this one 10 times. Another Vive makeup. I have a few bits of Vive in this current Shop My Stash actually. This is the Eye Wand in the shade Sand. So it is a very warm beige colour. It's like the colour of sand really, hence its name. And I have been using this as an eyeshadow primer because I was working on MAC Paint Pot and Painterly, but I think it was Leah who commented and said that she's been working on her paint pot by MAC, and it's taking absolutely ages to see any progress in it, and I did think that would be the case, so I thought instead let's focus on my Vive Eye Wand. It's okay as an eyeshadow primer. I'm not sure if it's this or if it's the eyeshadows I'm putting on top of it, but I am noticing that I'm getting more creasing than I have done previously. So yeah, not sure whether it's this or whether it's the eyeshadows themselves, but I wouldn't rely on this as an actual eyeshadow primer. As an eyeshadow colour, it's lovely. I set it with an eye powder eyeshadow over the top, and these are just so easy. Honestly, you just screw it up and draw it on your eye, blend it out with a fluffy brush, and you're done. And the colours are lovely as well. I love that they're shades of warm browns, totally up my street, so really do enjoy this, but not loving it as an eyeshadow primer. And again, when it comes to filming my project pan in a few days time, I am actually going to put this in my project pan. Next is my Revolution bronzer, the Ultra Cream bronzer in the shade Light. I use this one 14 times. This is a really beautiful bronzer. It cost me about a £5, so a really good value bronzer, but it performs beautifully as well. Obviously it's a cream bronzer, but it's so creamy, it's really luscious looking, it blends out beautifully. The shade isn't too dark or too orange or too muddy. It's a really beautiful shade and just really easy to use as well. It is quite pigmented, so I do have to be quite light-handed with it, but it blends out really lovely as well. So it's not a stubborn bronzer, it's not a stubborn product to blend out. Really enjoyed using this. I wore this one 14 times. And the reason why this one isn't higher is because I've been using a lip liner in my project pan as a bronzer, which I will talk about in my project pan video. And a similar kind of thing with the blusher actually. This is the Rare Beauty Melting Blush in the shade Nearly Apricot, a beautiful apricot shade, slightly darker than Vive Pesca. So I wore this 6 times, and because I haven't worn this more is because there's a lip liner that I've been using as a blusher. So I'm trying to get that lip liner used up, and so where this blusher is quite new, there's no kind of urgency or sort of need to use this one up. I'm happy having only used it 6 times. It's not a high amount, but it's fine for me. There are other products that I want to focus on ahead of something like this. But I much prefer this blusher to the liquid blusher. I've got the mini liquid one in the shade Joy, and I find that that one is a little bit too vibrant for me. This one is much more of a toned down peach. It's more kind of wearable, and it's a lot easier to use as well. It blends out a lot easier. You can use your fingers as well. So yeah, I do much prefer this one to the liquid one. So another Vive product next. This is my face palette in the shade Dawn. You have a bronzer, 2 blushes and a highlighter, and I focused on the highlighter this month. This is my only powder highlighter that I own now, and I'm happy to say that I've hit pan on it. I'm not sure if you can kind of see the pan in it, but I hit pan on it on the 21st of the month. I used this 24 times this month. Now you get 3 grams of product per pan, so you get a fair amount of product, but these pans are quite wide. They're quite big in terms of surface area, but they're not particularly deep. So because it's quite a shallow pan, it was fairly easy for me to hit pan on this one. So happy that I have done that. And it's a really beautiful light warm gold shade, so it's my kind of highlighter shade. If I'm going to wear a highlighter, I want to wear that kind of shade. And it's not hugely blingy or hugely glowy and glittery. It's a really nice wearable form of highlighter, and I think that's why I'm not that keen on a highlighter, because I find that it's very kind of like in your face, very glittery, and highlighters have a tendency to not look particularly natural. So I prefer a highlighter shade like this, and also like a cream or a liquid highlighter instead. That gives your skin more of a glow. But very much liked wearing this one, and this is another one actually that I'm going to put in my project pan, and I'm going to keep it there until I use it up. Next is my Peaches and Cream eyeliner in the shade Papyrus. So it is a nude colour for your waterline, helps your eyes look a bit more awake. If you're looking a bit tired in the morning, an eyeliner like this in your waterline just helps you look a bit more awake. And I've spoken about these so many times on my channel. These cost about £5. Brilliant quality. Did I say Peaches and Cream? But very creamy, so they don't tug, they apply beautifully, but they last as well. Even on the waterline, they last a really good amount of time. Super pigmented and just a pleasure to use. If you're after a really good quality but affordable eyeliner, go and check out Peaches and Cream. So the lip liner that I was using as a blusher is this one here, called Peekaboo Neutral, and it's by NYX. It is a warm pink, and I want to include this one in my project pan. I want to get this one used up because I've got this one and Neutral from NYX. Neutral has more brown in it, so that's better suited for me and my complexion, being an autumn. This one doesn't have quite as much brown in it, but I'm not getting rid of it because it is still fairly warm. And using it as a blusher, basically just drawing it on my cheeks, does work pretty well. So that is what I have been mostly using as my blusher at the moment, and this is another one that I'm going to put in my project pan. I reckon it's probably going to take me 2 to 3 months to completely use this one up, and obviously using it as a blusher you're going to use a lot more of it compared to using it as just a lip liner, so I get through it a lot quicker. But also I really liked using this with the Vive Velvet Sands lip liner in my project pan, because together they make a really lovely warm pink brown neutral lip. So yeah, did enjoy using this one as well, and I used it 12 times over the past month. My focus palette for the month was Urban Decay Naked Heat, so it contains lots of these really warm reds, oranges. I, to be honest, stick to down here. When we get up here we get too dark for me, too red for me. I think this palette's probably better suited to a spring than an autumn. I think an autumn needs something a little bit earthier, so maybe more browns and not quite as bright as some of these oranges and reds. I am trying to hit pan in the shade Lumbre. I don't know whether I'm going to stop because it's a very pretty shade, but I'm not really loving it. And I am also working on Sourced. I have rolled Sourced in, which is a warm mid-tone brown. So I think I would rather, and I'm going to talk about this in my Pan in Every Eyeshadow Palette update, but yeah, I think I might end up rolling that one out and just focusing on these 4. I did try to depot this one, but it was such pain, so I am just going to leave it. I don't want to completely damage this palette and potentially damage the eyeshadows within it, so I am just going to leave it and then probably just focus on these 4 shades down here. And then last item that I was working on was an eyeshadow single. It's this one here called In the Spotlight from Makeup Geek. I couldn't remember the name of it when I talked about it in my previous Shop My Stash video. Now, it swatches as a really pretty light apricot. It's got some shimmer in it, so it's very, very pretty on the hand and in the actual pan. But on me, on my eyes, it goes like an icy pink. It's really weird. I did actually wear this in a video where I wore my coral top. I can't remember what the video was called, but I did have a few people comment on my eyeshadow and say it was really pretty, so I was a little bit torn, like, oh, some people think it looks pretty, but up close it looks like an icy cool tone pink. So I have actually decided to declutter it. It isn't an eyeshadow I use a lot of, hence why it's still pretty full, and because it does pull pink and a little bit more cool toned on me, I know I'm not really going to reach for it. So I've worn it 4 times, not a load, but enough to know that I'm not going to get my wear out of it if I keep it. So this is actually going to be a declutter. So time now to go to my dressing table and pick out some makeup to work on for May. I think I know what I want to do. I'm pretty sure I've got an idea in my head, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with that. So yeah, let's have a look and let's see if I do actually stick with the idea that I had in mind. Okay, so in here I have mostly kind of like base products and a few odd like eyeliners, a lip gloss and some eye glitters there. So I'm not going to include any primers, under eye correctors, concealers or foundations. I've got a couple of blushes in here. I don't think I'm going to include them either because I do have a couple in my project pan. So out of what's left in here, I think I'm just going to go for these 2 eyeliners by Kiko. One is a brown and one is a green. Lovely colours, lovely formulation, but I'm including them so they get like regular use. I'm not bothered about using these up. I'm happy with having these in my collection for however long they stay, but just to make sure that I am using them on a regular basis. So in here I've got mostly cheek products apart from this little eyeshadow palette here. I think the only thing from in here I'm going to take is my Vive powder. I've got this in the shade Light, and I used this randomly the other day, and it's just such a beautiful powder to use. You get a good amount of pigment, but it sets your makeup as well. It doesn't look really chalky or heavy, it's just a really finely milled powder. So I think I'm going to use this one. I'm not going to include a focus eyeshadow palette because I'm going to talk about what I'm going to change to my Pan in Every Eyeshadow Palette challenge in my next video. But I am going to include this. Just increase the brightness there, we were looking a little bit dark. So I did start to film, but I gave up, depotting my eyeshadow palettes, a couple of my eyeshadow palettes and a couple of my face and eye palettes. It was a total mess. Big disaster, so that's why I haven't put the video up. Again, I'll explain more about that in my Pan in Every Eyeshadow Palette challenge update. But these are all of my current singles, so I'm going to include all of these just to make sure that I like them all. And then if I don't, I will declutter some, but I want to continue streamlining my makeup collection, so I think it would be good to include all of these single eyeshadows next as part of that process. And I'm going to do the same thing with lips as well. I'm going to include all of my non-House of Colour lip items. So that includes this Estee Lauder lipstick, my new MAC one. Actually, let's just show you what these ones look like. So that's the Estee Lauder lipstick. It's a warm orange-based red. The MAC one is a new one. I've not actually used this one, so I might use this one in this video. I've got 2 Vive lipsticks as well. I've got Come In Ho on the left and then Power Suit on the right. I've then got this e.l.f. lip balm in the shade Cheery and a MAC Powder Kiss Slim lipstick in the shade Sweet Cinnamon. So it's still a warm base red, but it's darker than, say, the Estee Lauder one. I'm I'm not actually going to include the Vive Lip Dew. I know that I like this one, so I'm not going to bother including that one, especially as well because I've got 2 other lip glosses that I'm trying to use up, so that one can stay. And in terms of lip liners, I'm going to go for these 3. So on the left I've got MAC Chicory, which is a warm based red. In the middle is NYX Global Citizen, which is a dupe for Vive Velvet Sands, so a very warm orangey brown neutral. And then on the right is Natural by NYX. So I'm probably not going to get rid of any of these 3 lipsticks, to be honest. I think I know that I like all of them, but these will pair nicely with the lipsticks that I'm going to include. So my main kind of focus with this next Shop My Stash is lips and eye shadows, single eyeshadows, and just to make sure that I like all of them, and then if I don't, I will tell you about which ones I'm going to declutter at the next update. Okay, so seeing as I'm not including any sort of like base products in a way, I have just done my primer, foundation, under eye corrector and concealer. So before I do any kind of like cheek products, I do want to do my lipstick first, because then that's going to dictate what goes on my cheeks and what goes on my eyes. And I'm going to use my new MAC Smoked Almond lipstick. This is in the Amplified Cream version, and in the tube it looks like a very warm dusky brown, so yeah, interested to try this, see how this goes. There's something about a new lipstick, but in particular a brand new MAC lipstick, that is just so beautiful. I kind of don't want to ruin it by using it, but I'm gonna. That's nice. That's a really natural, warm brown pink. I like the Amplified Cream as well because it's got a good amount of pigment, but it's very, very comfortable. No, I like that. That's nice. So for lip liner, I'm going to use my NYX, what are you? Natural lip liner. That's a good pairing. That's worked really well. Okay, for bronzer, I'm going to try Coming in Hope from Vive. I'll just swatch that a little bit. It's quite a warm brown, but it doesn't have enough depth on my lips. I feel like I need a bit more earthiness, a bit more brown within it. It just goes a little bit dull on my lips, so I don't love to wear it as a lipstick. So let's see how this goes as a bronzer. And obviously that's going to help me wear more of it. That is working alright as a bronzer, that's okay. This is probably going to be how I use this lipstick up actually, as a bronzer. I'm sure at some point this will end up going in my project pan for that purpose. Okay, next I'm going to use another lipstick as a base product. I'm going to use my Estee Lauder Persuasive lipstick. Where's some space for me to swatch it? There we go. It is an orangey red. So I'm going to use a little bit of this as a blusher. So just because it's a lipstick doesn't mean you have to wear it as a lipstick. Especially if you're trying to use up products, try to kind of see how you can multitask with them, and lipsticks are great to use as a blusher, especially if you're wearing it as a lipstick and you don't know what blusher will best go with that lipstick. Swipe it on your cheeks, problem solved. Just putting a bit of Skin Dew from Vive on my cheekbones. This is in my project pan. Right, I'm going to use my Vive powder. With this, you do get a lot of like kickback in the actual pan. So yeah, just kind of bear that in mind, that when you dip your brush into it, you are going to get a lot of powder kicking up. I think where it's so like finely milled, that's really the reason for it. Just using some of Fenty Shady Biz bronzer from my project pan. And Milani Luminoso, which is also in my project pan as my blusher. And then some of that Vive highlighter in the Dimensions palette, because why not? I want to get this highlighter used up, so might as well. And then using that Vive eyeshadow stick in the shade Sand as my eyeshadow primer. Okay, so these, they shouldn't fall out because they're magnetic. These are the eyeshadows that I am working with. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? Right, well, I know what I'm going to start with. My stool is so creaky, I need to get some WD-40 on it. I am going to use this, let me hold it up for you, this brown shade from one of my Laura Geller palettes. This was from the Sunday Fun Day shade. This one took a bit of a battering when I depotted it, so I have repressed it, but I think I used too much alcohol. The bottle that I had my alcohol in for repressing, it started leaking, so, and the pump didn't work, so there was a lot of alcohol actually coming out, and I'm not really convinced by how this is looking. I mean, it might work fine, so let's try this as a crease shade and see if it's been repressed okay. I mean, that's coming out okay. Alright. Don't judge an eyeshadow by its appearance. Yep, I take it back. That's working fine. And then I'm gonna just put some of that under my lower lash line as well. Okay, so what I'm going to go with next, because I'm not sure if I like this shade or not, I'm going to use Antiqued by MAC, which is this kind of reddish brown. This might end up being a little bit too dark for me. So I'm just going to put some of that on the outer corner. I've had these MAC singles since round about 2015, I want to say, and they still work really well. So if you go by the recommendations for how long you should be keeping your makeup, I should have thrown these out years ago, but eyeshadows take an age to completely use up. So I'm not getting rid of these just because they might be out of date. I mean, they still perform fine. I don't have any reactions on my eyes. I don't smell funny, so I'm happy keeping them. Yeah, so that is like slightly dark, warm, reddish brown. It's more brown than red actually. It's got a nice amount of brown behind it. Might have to use that one a few times this month. Yeah, because I'm including a lot of eyeshadows and a lot of lip products, I'm probably only gonna be able to use them like a few times each, unless they're able, especially the eyeshadows, to be layered and worn with lots of the other shades. But for now, I quite like that colour. Okay, this one is calling to me. I think this one would work quite well with Antiqued. This is the shade Expensive Pink, also by MAC. Yeah, that one works quite well with Antiqued. Okay, so far, so good. So I have a dark brown also from that Sunday Fun Day palette that got a little bit damaged and was repressed. Slightly weird looking, but if it's anything like that brown shade, hopefully it should be fine. So I'm going to use this as a liner and see how pigmented it is as a liner. Some shades are fine as an actual like eyeshadow shade, but if you use them as a liner they kind of struggle to come through, but this one is doing a pretty good job. Yeah, that worked rather nicely. I'm also going to use another shade from the Sunday Funday palette. I have hit pan on this one. I worked on this one as part of my Pan in Every Eyeshadow palette challenge. I'm going to use this one as an inner corner highlight and then under the brow bone as well. So I've used 5 shades so far and they all worked really well, so that's a good start for my eyeshadows. So I'm just going to finish up with a bit of mascara and eyebrows and I'll be right back. And there we go, final look. So yeah, I'm quite happy with how this has kind of come together. Really like this MAC lipstick. This was my last back to MAC. They've stopped doing that now, unfortunately, which is a little bit annoying. So I had about 6, isn't it? 6 empty MAC items and I got that lipstick and I really like that. I feel like that's a really lovely nude, neutral, everyday lipstick for autumns, but obviously if you go a little bit darker on the eyes you can make it a little bit more smoky. And then I like the eyeshadow as well. I'm glad those 2 shades that I kind of damaged and then repressed have worked out okay. So far so good with the products that I have chosen. I'm not sure if there will be any declutters, we will see, but yeah, this is the final look. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up and I will see you soon for my April empties video and then my Project Pan and Pan in Every Eyeshadow palette that I do at the start of every month. So I will see you very soon for that. Bye.